G'day, Franz arises, and welcome to episode 23 of the Tour de Franzo. And today we are going from Wallaroo to Lock. Yes, Wallaroo turned out to be a lovely stopover. I had an extra day by the time I had to catch the ferry to cross the Spencer's Gulf to Cowell. But anyway, Wallaroo was a place of some heritage architecture to enjoy. Instead of the usual silo art, they did this thing of projecting movies and things onto the silos, which I could see from the caravan park. There were also conversations and even a touch of breakfast from some of the friendly caravanners that shared the caravan park as well. But anyway, it was now time to catch the ferry. Puff and Puff were the first on board the ferry, and then it was off to sea. Yes, the sea. That big wobbly blue thing with all that water in it. The sea. It was time to hoist the Jolly Roger, purchase a parrot, and put on my peg leg. How I loved all that nautical talk. Lower the jib, hoist the mainsail, cast off the anchors. It's a pity I didn't get any, though. Just lean your bike over there on the right-hand side, mate, and we'll tie it up before we get going. Yep, sure thing, boss. But it was a fun trip across the Gulf to Lucky Bay, and then a bike ride around to Cowell. Did you know that Cowell is the world's jade capital? Well, I didn't know that either until pretty recently, but it seems it depends on how you measure that one. But apparently the deposits of jade at Cowell is right up there. Cowell was a pleasant stay, but have a look at the wind in those trees there. That's what I was battling. Still, I did meet this lovely couple, Phil and Bronwyn, who shared some food and tea with me, and they were travelling westwards to Perth. Frontogram, Friday 20th of September. It is about 10 o'clock or something. I have departed Cowell, and it's already been a bit of a bugger of a day with the headwind, and I'll just turn this shot around. Somewhere down there is my turn off to Cleve, and somewhere around about there is probably where I'll be heading through those hills to get to Cleve. It's going to be pretty rough going, I'm pretty sure, but I reckon I will make it one way or another. So yes, I did have to go through those hills, but first to stop at the monument to a local pioneer of the transport industry in South Australia. And then I discovered that Puff had a couple of loose screws. No comments, please. But fortunately, these could be happily replaced with cable ties. So let's do a map check at this point. First of all, it was on the ferry across Spencer Gulf to Lucky Bay, around the bay to Cowell, and then the next day over to Cleve into the hills, and then it was further slogging over to Lock. So now back to the story. It was turned westwards onto Birdseye Highway, where the climb began against more direct headwinds and some rainy weather to boot. This is the May Gibbs gumnut tree. May Gibbs, Australian author of children's books. Apparently near here was her first home, and in the 90s the local residents erected this monument to her. So it was upwards, onwards and upwards, through some hills that had a lot of funny unpronounceable Aboriginal names, but what the heck, I would have probably appreciated the hills even more had I been going the other way, going downhill and with a tailwind, but that's okay. And then there was Cleve, a nice warm bed and a good night's rest, a pub with delicious pasta, and lovely cold, wet, delicious beer. Franzogram, 22nd of September. It's Sunday, around about 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm about 18 kilometres short of Lock, which is good news. The wind has still been a headwind, not as bad as what I've been getting, but it's still there. I'll just wait for this truck to go. Anyway, I had a pretty good camp spot last night near Allsborough Road, and I did actually manage to get up about 6:30 in the morning, got breakfasted, packed up camp. I was on the road just a whisker after 8, which has helped me beat the headwind, let's say, for a couple of hours, which has been helpful. And while I've been pedalling along, I've been having to contemplate under what circumstances do I continue across the Nullabor, or what would prevent me, in which case what would perhaps be the best way to go about getting a ride back to Albany. But anyway, we'll carry on to Lock. It's getting there. This is the campsite that I was referring to in that last franzogram. To the left there was actually a small circle of bushes there, which gave me some protection from the wind. Somebody had also previously built a fire pit there, so that I was actually able to enjoy a nice homely little campfire for the night. Beautiful. Oh, at last I made it into Lock. I was so hankering for a beer to celebrate the end of the ride for the day, but unfortunately it turned out the pub there was permanently closed, or at least closed for the duration. It confirms my theory that I developed from years of rural living, that the last place in a town to go before it dies is the pub. So here I am speaking to you from back in Perth. Now, Lock provided a pretty basic but actually pretty good caravan park. It was about $10 a night for me. They had shower and toilets there, which was pretty good. I was able to, one way or another, keep my electronics recharged, so that was pretty good. Big disappointment was limited food options and no pub, no beer. But that aside, well, I had to contemplate my options, pardon me, and that left me with the following conclusion: to do the Nullabor or not to do the Nullabor. If I was dithering around like I had been, I'd be looking at doing the Nullabor in November, which you're looking at good 40-degree heat. So from where I was, the longer I wait, the hotter it was going to get. So how long would I have between known watering places? The longest one, if I had to assume the crummiest conditions, the longest one was between Balladonia and Norseman, in which case you're talking around about 200 kilometres, and at the rate that I had been travelling, I would say 50 kilometres a day. That's 4 days between known watering holes. Sometimes less, but let's reckon on 4 days, because after all, things do happen. So, at the current rate, how much water was I carrying? Well, if I had a overnighter, so that's 2 days on the bike with the overnighter, I'd be looking at 3 litres of water at a minimum. If things got hot, 5 litres. By 4 days is 20 litres. I had the carrying capacity of 15 litres, and the biggest one, the biggest amount of water that I carried at one point was my attempt at Norseman to Balladonia, 15 litres, which was bloody heavy. So there may have been days when I could have done more. There would probably be days when I would do less. Either way, it would be looking like reliable 60 kilometres a day to make it feasible, 70 even better. Anything above that is margin for error. How realistic was that? I was thinking, no. So, therefore, from Lock I had a few options, I thought. One is, I could press on to Ceduna, well, maybe see where things happened, and that would have provided some conclusion, a point of finality to my Tour de Franzo. But if I decided that I wasn't doing the Nullabor anymore, well, to be honest, I'd lost my motivation to push myself that far. So, there is a bus route that goes from Ceduna through Woodnakai and Cutter down to Adelaide. It turned out that was a twice-weekly service. Versus, if I made my way back to Lock, where there is another bus route that goes from Port Lincoln through Cleve. I meant to say Cleve. It goes from Port Lincoln through Cleve over to Adelaide. That's a 4 times a week service. It therefore seemed better to me to somehow make my way back to Cleve, whether it is thumb a ride, or do I just hop on my bike and pedal backwards? Well, I'll be honest again, I'm not a real fan of backtracking, even though probably I might have had a bit of extra luxury tackling those hills back the other way. But anyway, the upshot is I decided to get a ride back to Cleve, and from there take the bus to Adelaide and then fly back home or something. So that was the point where I got to Lock and decided, no, I've done enough. Roughly 2,000 kilometres is not a bad jaunt. And so I decided to pull the pin. Well, so far it's not quite the end of the Tour de Franzo, but that's the end of episode 23. Please do the click, like and subscribe and share sort of stuff, and there will be the link in the description below where you can cut and paste, and if you care to, you can contribute to the Shout Me a Beer campaign. But meanwhile, thanks for your interest, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, Franzorisers.